We as humans have inhabited the Earth for millions of years, but we still don't know everything about it. One of the reasons why this is so evident is that we've always discovered bizarre things on Earth, and by now, we've seen it all, or at least we think we have. While aliens, ghosts, and monsters may not exist, there are still some strange and creepy things that exist. Things that ice has preserved not for centuries, but for millennia. From ancient bacteria to prehistoric creatures, here are the top 15 things found frozen in ice that are as strange as they are creepy. Let's start with number 15, the Andean ice mummies. Well, we don't know about you, but we're not huge fans of being frozen alive. But apparently the ancient Incas had a different take on things. High in the Andes, frozen mummies have been discovered, some dating back more than 500 years. These weren't just any old mummies, these were sacrificial offerings, carefully chosen to appease the gods. It was a brutal way to make a god smile. The most famous of these chilling discoveries is Juanita, or the Ice Maiden, found in 1995 on the Ampato volcano in Peru. Juanita's condition was almost unreal. Her hair, skin, and even her internal organs were preserved so perfectly that scientists could study them in detail. Juanita's story gives us a rare peek into the Incan civilization's eerie rituals. It's not just history. It's a reminder that back then, being chosen as a sacrifice was no small deal. It was a ticket to the afterlife, or so they believed. Humans are quite eccentric and scary, isn't it? Number 14, Grasshopper Glacier. Well, it's not a secret that most of us purely hate the idea of creepy crawlies, especially when they're frozen in ice, trapped in a place where they can't escape. Grasshopper Glacier in Montana is one of those places that makes you stop and wonder how such a strange sight came to be. This glacier, stretching a mile long and half a mile wide near Cook City, is home to millions of grasshoppers, dead ones to be clear. Back in 1914, scientists discovered that the grasshoppers were from a species that had been extinct for over 200 years. The story goes that a massive swarm of locusts was caught by a snowstorm as they flew over the mountains. They perished in the cold and were preserved in the glacier, buried under layers of snow and ice. And it's not just Grasshopper Glacier. There's also Hopper Glacier, where more frozen locusts can be found. Would you like to visit these eerie frozen graveyards of insects? Now, let's move to number 13. One fish eating another. Some discoveries change history, and some have almost infinite scientific value. Others make the rounds on social media to an outcry of fake. This one's definitely the latter, but according to the Telegraph, it isn't fake. Just very, very disturbing. The footage came from two brothers who had been fishing on Indiana's Wawasee Lake when they saw what looked like a pike in the middle of eating a bass. The pair had been frozen in place, and no one on the internet seemed to believe it when they posted a photo. To prove those internet haters wrong, they posted a video of themselves cutting the fish out of the frozen lake. They really had been frozen solid. The best explanation is the pike choked on the base, died, and was frozen. Talk about adding insult to injury. Number 12, Mexican climbers. Now here's a story that sounds straight out of a crime thriller. While climbing Mexico's Pico de Orizaba, a climber slipped, only to find himself staring at a mummified head and arm sticking out of the snow. Yep, you heard that right. A head. Naturally, authorities were called in, and as they dug deeper, they discovered two more frozen mummies. Meet Luis Espinosa, an 81-year-old man who claimed to know the mummies. Turns out, he was part of a tragic expedition from 1959 that had claimed 3 lives. Luis recognized one of the men by his shirt and ring, which had his initials on it. While it must have been a huge relief for Luis to get some closure, just imagine being the climber who first found a mummified head poking through the snow. Now let's move to number 11, frozen waves. Well, Waves are basically the ocean's way of throwing a party. But what happens when they freeze mid-splash? That's exactly what happened when scientist Tony captured a frozen wave near the Dumont d'Urville station in Antarctica. But here's the twist. It wasn't a wave at all. What Truong really captured was a massive ripple of compressed ice that had forced out all the air. The result? A surreal structure that, under certain conditions, absorbs red light and transmits blue, giving it an eerie, stunning color. The closest thing to flash-frozen waves happened in 2015 when Jonathan Nimmer photographed Slurpee waves in Massachusetts. The water was so filled with ice that the waves moved at a crawl. Technically, it's like a slow-motion disaster. Number 10. Ötzi the Iceman. In 1991, a pair of hikers in the Alps stumbled upon what they thought was just another unlucky climber frozen in the ice. What they had actually found was Ötzi the Iceman, a 5,300-year-old mummified body that has become one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of our time. Frozen in a glacier on the border between Austria and Italy, Ötzi was so well preserved that his clothes, weapons, and even his last meal were still intact. So, what exactly happened to this ancient dude? Well, it's hard to believe, but Ötzi was actually murdered. He was found with an arrowhead lodged in his shoulder and cuts on his hands from a struggle. His body has given nerds a rare glimpse into life in the Copper Age, including what people ate, what they wore, and how they lived and died. And also, how they killed each other, just like most psychos today. Number 9. Mysterious Pyramid. In recent years, archaeologists have been on a roll discovering lost pyramids, many of which have been hiding in plain sight. But in 2016, something truly out of the ordinary happened. A pyramid-like structure appeared in Antarctica, sending the internet into a frenzy. Conspiracy theorists couldn't help themselves. Suddenly, Antarctica wasn't just an ice-cold deadland, but the home of an ancient civilization that had built pyramids, just like the Egyptians. Well, naturally, aliens got thrown into the mix too. But as much as we all wish to believe in an ancient Antarctic society, the reality was much less exciting. It turns out that the pyramid was simply the peak of a mountain poking out of the snow. So, no lost civilizations or extraterrestrial visitors, just a regular old mountain that happened to look like a pyramid. Still, it's pretty cool, even if it's a major letdown for those hoping for a frozen Egypt at the South Pole. What do you think? Number 8. Dinosaur bones. Antarctica. Icy, desolate, and full of dinosaurs? Yep, you heard that right. In 1986, geologists stumbled upon fossilized dinosaur bones in the frozen tundra of Antarctica. These weren't just any bones, though. They belonged to creatures like Cryolophosaurus, sounds like a real party animal, and a Glacialosaurus. No, it didn't have ice powers. The bones were found on James Ross Island, proving that at one point, Antarctica wasn't the frozen wasteland we know today. In fact, it was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, and much like your favorite tropical vacation spot, it was warm and full of life. So picture this: dinosaurs chilling in the lush tropical paradise that would one day become a continent covered in ice. How's that for a plot twist in Earth's history? Just don't ask how they managed to walk around with all that snow and ice on their backs. They didn't. They just left some bones behind. Lucky for us. Now let's head over to Number 7. Ancient bacteria. In 2005, scientists made a discovery so cool it's practically frozen in time. They found bacteria that had been in suspended animation for 32,000 years. That's right, frozen in the ice, just chilling until the ice melted. Once it did, these ancient bacteria decided, hey, why not start swimming again? These bacteria, now called the Carnobacterium pleistocenium, didn't just play dead. They fully revived, like that one friend who's never really out of the party. Scientists were stunned, and understandably so. It's like opening a time capsule and finding your high school self still kicking. But here's the catch. These dudes aren't harmless. They're extremophiles, meaning they can survive in some of the harshest conditions. So who knows what other ancient, possibly dangerous organisms might be waiting to wake up and say hello after all these years. It's the kind of discovery that makes you think twice before licking that ancient frozen ice cube. Number 6. The Lost Squadron. The story of the Lost Squadron is as wild as it sounds. In 1942, during World War II, a group of 6 fighter planes and 2 bombers were caught in a fierce storm over Greenland. With nowhere else to go, they made an emergency landing on a glacier. The crew was rescued, but the planes? Well, they were left to be swallowed by the ice. Fast forward a few decades, and these planes were written off as lost forever, until 1992, when a team stumbled upon the P-38 Lightning nicknamed Glacier Girl, buried under a chilling 268 feet of ice. The recovery was like something out of a movie, but after years of work, Glacier Girl was restored and actually flew again in 2002, nearly 60 years after she vanished into the icy tomb. Talk about perseverance. It's a story of adventure, incredible teamwork, and one plane's remarkable return from the dead. Number 5. The Franklin Expedition. The Franklin Expedition has fascinated historians for over a century. Back in 1845, British explorer Sir John Franklin embarked on a daring mission to navigate the Northwest Passage through the Arctic. He set off with 2 ships, the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, with 129 men on board. But after that, they disappeared without a trace. For years, no one knew what happened to them. Then, in 2014 and 2016, an extraordinary discovery was made. Both ships were found, perfectly preserved in the Arctic ice. But it wasn't just the ships that told the story. Remains of the crew were uncovered, and the horrifying truth emerged. Many had perished from starvation, freezing temperatures, and, most chilling of all, some likely turned to cannibalism. These eerie findings finally shed light on one of history's greatest mysteries and left us with more questions than answers. Number 4. Siberian cave lions. In 2015, Siberia delivered one of its most jaw-dropping discoveries yet: 2 frozen cave lion cubs, Uyan and Dina, perfectly preserved in permafrost for over 30,000 years. These Ice Age big cats, once roaming Europe and Asia, vanished thousands of years ago. But thanks to the deep freeze, these cubs were found with their fur, internal organs, and their delicate whiskers intact, a preservation level that feels more like science fiction than reality. For nerds, this discovery is like hitting the evolutionary jackpot. Studying these cubs offers a rare window into the lives of a species that hasn't existed for millennia. And because science loves a bold idea, there's even chatter about resurrecting these ancient predators through cloning technology. While the ethics of reviving extinct species are still hotly debated, one thing's for sure. Uyan and Dina are proof that the Siberian permafrost is basically nature's most unpredictable treasure chest. Number 3. Mysterious holes. While black holes and other mysterious gaps in the universe might get all the attention, in 2016 it was the Antarctic that had everyone talking about a huge, eerie hole in the ice. These massive openings appeared in the Weddell Sea, and one of them was so big it covered an area of 31,000 square miles, roughly the size of Maine. Naturally, people were freaked out. Scientists quickly identified the phenomenon as a millennia, a term for a large hole in the sea ice where open water is exposed. What made this particular millennia so baffling was that they're usually found near coastlines, not in the middle of the icy expanse. The Weddell millennia hadn't been seen since 1976, and experts believe an intense winter cyclone could have been the culprit. While the cause is somewhat clear now, the sheer size and mysterious nature of the hole still give us the chills. Number 2. A preserved mummy head. Now, we're not saying that we love mummies, but there's something pretty eerie about the ones uncovered in 2017 near the Russian town of Salakhard. Archaeologists stumbled upon two mummies in the Zeleny Yar burial site, one adult female and one baby, both estimated to be around 900 years old. But what makes this discovery so intriguing, and slightly creepy, is that the female mummy is the only one of her kind in the entire burial ground, which suggests she was likely an important, elite figure from an unknown medieval culture. What's even more chilling is that only her head was preserved. Yep, her face, hair, and even eyelashes are still intact, though her face has a haunting green tint due to the copper in her burial chamber. It's like something straight out of a mystery thriller, an ancient, buried secret that's just begging to be solved. Number 1. The woolly mammoth. Woolly mammoths are practically the poster children of Ice Age discoveries, and for very good reason. These huge, shaggy creatures roamed the Earth during the last Ice Age and became extinct around 4,000 years ago. But thanks to the cold Siberian tundra, many of their remains have been almost perfectly preserved in ice. One of the most famous discoveries is a baby woolly mammoth named Lyuba, which was found in 2007 in Siberia. At over 40,000 years old, Lyuba is so well preserved that scientists were able to study her skin, fur, and even her stomach contents. These discoveries have reignited debates over whether cloning extinct species could one day be possible. So, what do you think? Would you like to see a real-life woolly mammoth walking around in the modern world? Well, we definitely would. Hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.